Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Data Sense podcast. This is the show where you learn from technical and business leaders how to connect business and data to develop your own ability or sense to use data to drive your business forward. Today, we have Stephen Lovell-Taylor-Haines, that's a long name, on the show. He represents his consultancy called Consulting STH. We'll be talking about digital transformation and change management for large companies. Stephen is a change management specialist, leading change portfolios, programs, and projects. He has a broad experience including in financial application implementation, software development, and business change. His core verticals are financial services and insurance, but have also delivered projects and programs in retail, logistics, central and local government. Currently, he's assisting a select number of SMEs with establishing their change portfolios. Regarding IT projects, change management, including digital transformation and IT change projects, many core platforms have been around for a very long time. Um, Most of the big companies have IT pro, IT platforms which are older than at least 10 years. Some are older than 20 years as well. And the new world requires a change, and it requires updated or all of them to be replaced, be it cloud or be it just other softwares. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, thanks, Zane. There are a lot of people out there with very old core systems. I've come across a number that are not only old, but have also had bespoke development around them as well, which makes it all the harder for businesses to replace them. I think there are probably three or four key bits that I just want to touch on. First of all is understanding what it is you're trying to achieve, because sometimes the old system is okay. You don't need the latest flashy car on the lot to get from A to B. But I think most people now are looking towards their new futures, a digital future, and being able to be as flexible as possible, lower the cost of ownership, maintenance costs, all those good things that we all know can cripple us. So I think getting a clear view of the benefits that you're seeking from a new system. I've spoken to a couple of SMEs recently who know they needed a new system, but weren't really clear what they would get from spending the money, other than a new system. They work out the benefits, and they're not just they're not just financial. They can be process benefits, the cost of ownership, um, also the ability to integrate to other systems that your customers and suppliers operate. The more modern your system, the better integration features are available, and integrations to things like the Google Analytics platform. Great stuff, some of the older applications won't allow you to do that.
So yeah, regarding with say with artificial intelligence, so AI,
Mhm.
that seems to be quite hot right now. And what's interesting is that a lot of companies were looking to upgrade to a system that enables artificial intelligence, so AI enabled everywhere. And sometimes they could be spending money on things which they don't need to spend money on, or they might be they're obviously like looking to upgrade and change and be following the latest trend. But what would you say about that in terms of should they follow the latest trend to all the way, or should they first think about whether they need it or not?
It's a good question. I think there's a balance here, but when you're going through the business case to justify the expenditure, you have to be really clear on the benefits that you're seeking, and
Yeah.
that might be that you need a platform that's available in 2 years plus. I don't think we can look further than that, that allows you to link into, for example, artificial intelligence platform. But I think that's also become a bit of a buzzword. I mean, if you ask
Yeah.
the majority of business leaders, how would you use AI in your company? And you don't get a very clear response because people don't really know. Um,
Hmm.
you get slightly clearer responses when you ask the question about robotic automation. So you can take out some of those drudgery type processes that you're currently employing people for, but those people can be better used doing much more productive work rather than moving data from A to B, as an example, or scanning invoices. You know, I think the days of everybody having someone in the print or post room doing that is now limited. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think
With,
it's been clear about the benefit.
cool. With data, do you see that many companies are moving the right direction in terms of using data for producing the right insights and acting on the insights as well? Or what are the challenges that you have seen companies face, and how do you how do you go about solving them?
I think again it depends on the size of the business. So larger corporates definitely have been investing for some time in getting proper analytics, creating an appropriate data lake if that's the best way forward. Um, Having teams that specialize in mining that data and providing insights. So I think that's one side of the spectrum. You've then got the middle ground and sort of the smaller corporates and larger SMEs who may be on the cusp of that. They're probably utilizing some of the more modern kit, but there's a lot of Excel going on. And then you have the SMEs, which is the rest of the world. And let's not forget, in the UK, 96% of businesses are SMEs.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people out there who don't know and are probably
Hmm.
not able to do that unless they have some good mentoring or some good leadership from elsewhere. Um, I think in terms of getting the data right, it's being able to make sure that you can access appropriate data, but data in itself isn't a benefit. It's understanding what you're going to do with it, um, where you get it from, how accurate it is, how do you maintain it. We have lots of regulation, GDPR and various other elements for customer data, but there's all that other data that you keep that you need to be really clear. Are you just accumulating data for the sake of it, to say you've got it? Or are you just not getting the right information to be able to generate the right KPIs, the right measurement, to be able to fulfill your reporting requirements? You should be at a point now where generating reports should be pretty much automated. Those days of creating Excel reports because somebody has to key stuff in, that should be on the way out. So I
Cool.
think there needs to be some clarity there.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, could you think of an example where a large organization should not be using data?
Should not be using data.
Should not be using data. Is there? Could you think of an example where? Uh, no.
Not the top of my head. I mean,
So yeah, basically what I'm trying to get to is that pretty much everyone should be using data. It's just a matter of to what extent and how do they use it? How do they implement it?
yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But it's also being clear about where you get it from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And within so say with data, there's a lot of loads of things you can do. First of all, reports, automated reports, insights that you can act on, insights that you can act on in order to save money, insights that you can act on to make more money, to find bigger margins. What else would you say are the benefits of data, of using data for large companies?
process efficiency, being able to understand the steps, both from a customer perspective, so customer experience. If you capture the right data, you know where people are coming in out of your systems, where they are on your website, what products they're browsing. There's all that kind of big data mining element. Um, you can make efficiencies there by directing people more efficiently. You have wait time information. Again, the frustration we hear so many times, it's not only on IVRs, but on websites. You go in to make a payment and the payment field drops out and then you have to go back. All those kind of things are all customer frustrations. You should be able to track that information, identify the issue, and make those things smoother. I think there's also the excuse me. There's also the side of data about your internal processes, and not just those where you have friction with clients. Uh, again, it depends on your type of business, but manufacturing businesses are very good at understanding how something moves from point A to point B to become product C. And I,
Mm.
that, from my experience, uh, if I take that to a financial services business, they're not always as astute about how product A becomes product B becomes product C. It's understood, but it's not a frictionless process. So
Hmm.
being able to identify those refinements, and sometimes it's a bit like Formula One. If you can shave 100th of a second off every lap, you're going to win. And it's not about making those massive leaps. It's about finding the little things that make you slowly better every single day.
Yeah, that's a great example with the Formula One, because it's the little things that you can find from with data, and basically, as soon as one thing I found is that as soon as you start working with data and identifying problems and things that you can fix, there's loads of low hanging fruits to first basically get. Um, so, regarding and also with I agree with the internal process. There are some companies, what they do is they actually study their Jira data. So Jira is the
Yep.
application that monitors how basically project management, and some organizations actually manage and look at and understand, trying to understand how they are managing all their projects. So that I can see it's very it's so beneficial once you see little things that you can improve on. One question I have regard you mentioned about robotics, say large companies replacing um, someone doing a manual job such as scanning an invoice
Mhm.
with something done as robotics, or say even like an automated feeder printer that just scans it automatically. That makes sense. However, some companies may feel that what they are expected to do is use AI, use deep learning, train their own models, and then train their models to do certain things with robots and stuff. And the cost of that could just it just could spiral out of control
Mhm.
with basically no benefit, because the benefit is so small that you're not doing it right. Have you faced such issues before, where a client of yours is describing a problem which is almost like straight out of fiction, science fiction or something?
Yeah, occasionally you get people who think they have an issue, that it is an issue, but it doesn't need a dirty, great pair of boulders to crack that tiny little nut. You know, I think we can get overexcited, shall we say, about having the new technology to solve a problem, and quite often that's not the case. I'd came across an insurance client of mine who was having an issue getting the management accounts created on time, and that was because of a disparate set of offices, different locations, different time zones, and being able to get all of that information accurately verified, balanced, and to be able to produce consolidated management accounts for the board. Um, all that needed was a single set of information grabs, a simple template to put that information into, and then a set of automated authorizations on the back of it. Their previous process was a manual process. Yeah, so each individual unit would create their management account. It would go through their hierarchy and approval. It would then go to somebody else who would then rekey it and put it somewhere else. Okay, so yes, it's not robotics in the true sense of the word, but the illustrative point is that you could put robotics in to do that, but actually all you needed was a sensible template and some electronic approvals and authorizations, and then automation workflow behind that,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah,
that solved the issue.
yeah, I agree, and I guess that's what's needed for a business to to find the best solution, that is the most practical solution, cost-effective solution that solves the problem. I guess that's basically the crux of the matter.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like I said earlier, it's working out what benefits you're going to get, and making
Yeah.
sure you can prove those and track those benefits from your business case. If you can't do it at business case stage, notwithstanding sometimes you have to do some investigation as part of a project, and you do it
Hmm.
in a slightly more agile way, but you still need to be clear about what you're going to get at the end. You may not have
Hmm.
that kind of detailed old school 15 reports of 30 columns by 15. You know, it's not that
Hmm.
kind of requirement, but you need to be clear about the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and be very, very clear about the benefit that each one of those outcomes is going to give you, ideally linked to your strategy in some
So
way, shape, or form.
yeah, so that I completely agree with. However, there are companies out there who are totally unaware of how they can use AI or even data. And say they had a very good year. They had 30 million pounds in profit, and the year before they had something like less than or about 10 million. So they got loads of money now, and they are looking to invest that in data to figure out how they can use data. They have no idea. What would you suggest to them? How where should they start? They have not. They don't know how they can define what the problems are they want to solve.
I think the first step for a company who doesn't have that level of internal knowledge is to engage a suitable consultant. And that's not me, by the way,
Cool.
but a suitable data consultant or business who can actually come and talk to the individual company about what data they have, where they think there are opportunities to be taken. Going back to your earlier point about the low-hanging fruit, there may be some certain things which are fairly easy and cheap and quick to deliver. Um, and then there has to be a bit of an assessment between the business and hopefully the consultancy, um, about where the break line is between spend and benefit. You know, you can spend that 40 million, lovely, and you have the greatest data set up, but if it doesn't make you any more money for the
Hmm.
following year, you know, it's not a good investment.
Yeah, I agree. That actually brings us to the next question I have regarding access to data. Access to data, be it internal data or external data, buying data or generating data. I think that's the key. What would you say to that?
I think access is key as we move into the what will eventually be a full digital world. Having access to the right information, absolutely critical. But again, I think it's being clear about what the core data requirements are for your repository, um, being able to access that as and when needed. So I think we've seen some good examples during the recent lockdowns where home working was a no-no for a lot of people. Now nearly all of us have or will continue to. So having systems that are able for me to access data that you provided, as an example, on a central system, but in a user-friendly way that doesn't mean I have to download a large application onto my kit at home. So cloud is the obvious solution for a lot of this stuff. Um, Defining what it is. So there's a lot of businesses out there with multiple applications. We've all been through or heard the pain and woe stories of data warehouses. Um, that they're not as easy to put up as the metal ones we see around.
Hmm.
So the idea that people are moving to now of data lakes. So you put everything in there, you normalize that, and you build your data access over something like a data lake in conjunction with your applications. You only need the application stuff if you're going through processes, but if you're pulling out reporting, doing analysis work, um, having that data set in an appropriate data lake gives you the ultimate, in my view.
Cool. Do you have any particular favorites in terms of? So you mentioned cloud. Would you have any particular favorites in terms of which application allows you to see as much data as possible internally, internal to company or even external data? Do you have any particular favorites?
No, I think that's a bit of a horses for courses question. It depends on budget, data size, value, etc. Google Analytics is a great piece of kit. Um, there are many other applications out there. I think it would be misleading for me to pull out a favourite because I think it really depends on the needs of the business and the budget of the business.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
go
I
research.
yeah, definitely. I agree with the fact that yeah, with what you mentioned about we definitely need to cater it. Uh, there are solutions out there based on how much data you have and which particular is it internal, is it external.
Mm,
There are so many options out there, so we that definitely requires good research. Regarding,
agree.
so say now that we got access to data, so we have access to data or we are getting access to data. How do you implement projects in terms of, so how do you deliver projects? What do you have to say about Agile and Waterfall?
Ah, a good old question. I think the first thing I'd say is that agile is an extremely effective way of delivering uh, changing requirements, things in a graduated way. And I think we're getting used to the terms of fail fast,
Hmm.
test a lot, and there's a lot of good things that businesses can glean from that approach. I think the business has to be set up with a mindset that allows that approach to development. Uh, if you're looking at a business case and your FD wants to know how many widgets he's getting on what day, um, Agile is quite difficult. You can tell him what the big widget will look like at the end, but all those steps in between are in the power of the Scrum Master and the teams, be that DevOps, Data Ops, Tech Ops, whichever. Um, I think having the appropriate structures in place for Agile, if you've got fast-moving requirements, yeah, it's the right way to go. I still believe there's a lot of projects out there that have fairly um, stable requirements where waterfall is actually not a bad approach. Uh, Concurrent streams, it's not always, start at one side of your Gantt chart and end up at the bottom right hand corner. There are many variations in there. Having sensible tranches of work, which you may stop at the end of tranche two for argument's sake, and completely reassess tranches three and four. You know,
Hmm.
it's becoming more blurred, and I don't think any program necessarily is all one methodology.
Hmm.
I think most businesses would recognise, agile, half waterfall, half agile. Some of that's constructed. Some of it's because people aren't doing agile very well. Some people say agile because they're not quite sure what they do, um, and that's not a sin. If it works, that's okay. Um,
Yeah. So what's really interesting? Every single company I go and work for or work with, um, I have this. There's one thing I repeat in every single sort of agile conversation, and it's that the whole idea of agile is that it's supposed to be you choose the bits from the agile methodology and apply it to your project, and there's no such thing as you stick to the book. There is no sort of like rule. And I have definitely seen, say, for example, there's a project, say, a requirement gathering phase. During the requirement gathering phase, you can't do development at all. So, and I can see that. So, what you're mentioning is about mixture of some bits are waterfall, some bits are agile. That makes sense. I've seen that myself, and I always sort of highlight to companies that the whole idea of agile, in fact it actually says it in the agile methodology book, that you pick and choose bits that you feel are likely to help you in your project, and you can't just say you're going to stick to the whole thing. It doesn't work. And even say you stick to Kanban, you may not be able to stick to the whole Kanban methodology as well. You have to basically pick and choose bits that work with for you to make your basically project management easier and effective.
Completely agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a mix of
it's
extreme
a
programming might be the right thing to do for one business and not for
yeah.
somebody else. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. And so I think that brings us to nearly the end of the of our episode. Stephen offers change strategy, leadership, and independent assurance services through Consulting STH Limited. You can get in contact either via LinkedIn or his website www.consultingsth.co.uk. Thanks so much for being on the show today.